Welcome back, dear listeners, to Fright or Flight, the podcast where we rank, recap, and review every horror movie in a given franchise.
I'm Geraldine, the Fright of the podcast.
And I'm Frankie, I'm the Flight of the podcast, and today we're covering A Quiet Place Day 1, the end of our Quiet Place season for now.
For now?
Who knows? I mean, it looks like we might be getting some more in the future.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so too.
I mean, they leave off the movies in a way that makes you think, hey, there's going to be more of this.
Yeah. And now we saw this movie together.
We did.
In a movie theater.
Yeah. It was my first time actually seeing an IMAX film, I think is what it is, right?
No, it was RPX. IMAX is bigger.
It was a big screen, and it was it was so loud. Patrick and I were like, Jesus.
That is one of the complaints a lot of people say. Like,
it
it's
vibrated
too loud.
It vibrated my butt. I was like, whoa.
That's
It
my
is
only
loud.
complaint about our RPX theater specifically is that it's too loud in my opinion.
I like it. Make it even louder.
I kind of liked it, though, for this movie. It kind of worked.
Oh, yeah, I guess so.
It made it even
yeah.
more tense for me because
For
you could
sure.
hear like the rumbling, and it was like, oh, what's gonna happen?
Yeah, I had a good time. This movie had a budget of $67 million.
Woo!
The box office, which we all participated in,
Yep.
was $102 million. It's been the best opening weekend of the whole franchise.
Amazing.
Made a bunch of money, immediate success.
I love that. Well, also, I mean, it is a testament. The past two movies were successful. So I think that with this one being as successful, not only because it is a continuation of the story, or rather a prequel as to what happened before, I think it's also because of who they had in the cast, their repertoire.
For sure. I mean, it's a pretty small cast, all
Pretty
things
small
considered.
cast.
Yeah. Led by Lupita Nyong'o
Love her.
as
She's beautiful.
Sam. You might know her from Us.
Yes.
And I might know her from the Black Panther movies.
Yes.
She's great. Born in Mexico, raised in Kenya, Kenyan heritage, and it's super cool to see her here. She's joined by Joseph Quinn as Eric. Some of you may know him from the Stranger Things television show.
And soon, Gladiator 2.
Yeah, and soon also Fantastic Four.
Fantastic Four, yeah.
Wait, who is he in Stranger Things? Is he
He's this guy.
Eddie Munson.
Okay.
in
I
the
did not clock that.
Yeah,
But I know everybody's been obsessing over Eddie Munson. So
Yeah.
I mean, who hasn't? If you haven't,
Do you like Eddie Munson?
like...
What is it about him?
Well, okay. There are two different feelings that I have. One is attraction, of course, because
Okay.
the character himself is lovable.
Okay.
And he's sweet, and he's kind. All of the things. The other side is that he is an outcast, and he's not afraid to be himself. And...
Okay.
You know, I like that aspect as well because, you know, he is friends with all of these, you know, kind of nerdy guys. And it's just really sweet and endearing.
Were
and
you excited to see him in this movie?
Yes, I was. I think he's a fantastic actor. And I'm really excited to see what more he brings to the table. And I think with this film, like, there's no denying, like, he's a fantastic actor.
Right. I mean,
is he British?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So is he English in Stranger Things? I haven't
No.
watched that season yet.
Accent's
Okay.
gone, baby.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's very interesting. He's a hot commodity right now. Everybody wants to get him. Even John Krasinski said like we're lucky to have him. Like he was getting offers left and right. We have Alex Wolff as Ruben. He's brothers with Nat Wolff, and together they were part of the Naked Brothers band.
You know, growing up, I hated them.
Oh really?
I don't know what it was about them. I hated their guts.
I love them.
Hated their guts.
I like Cray, he's a car.
I never wanted to watch the show. I didn't want any part of the Naked Brothers band at all. But then when they started acting in films and stuff, I was like, I love these guys. I love both of them. They are fantastic.
Yeah, Nat Wolff has been in The Fault in Our Stars. He's been in Paper Towns. He's been in a live-action adaptation of an anime. I can't remember which one. It was Death Note.
Death Note. Okay.
Yeah.
And I know that Alex Wolff has been in Hereditary as well, right?
Yeah.
I believe it's... I get them mixed up sometimes. I'm not going to lie. I know that's kind of mean. But, like, they look so much alike. They're brothers.
Yeah, they are brothers. He plays this fella named Ruben. He's like kind of like a counselor, I feel like, in some way.
I think he's like the nurse and kind of like a counselor, too. So
Yeah.
he's kind of like a
Hospice
mix
nurse,
of
yeah.
multiple things.
We also have Jaimin Hansu as Henry.
We have Henry, the man on the island.
The man on the island.
Full circle, baby.
It's funny, I watched an interview featuring him, and every interview I've ever seen of him is awful. He just is not the best at talking to the camera, and that's fine. I mean, he's a talented actor. That doesn't mean you have to be, like, good in front of media.
Well, I mean, like, also when you're put on the spot, you really have no preparation. People are like,
Yeah.
so what got you into acting? What inspired you? Think about
Yeah.
the first moment, and you're like, I would be pooping my pants
Well, what's
if I had
funny
to
to
talk
me-
to the media like that.
What's funny to me is during the interviews, he refers to himself still as the man on the island.
That's so funny.
Yeah, I know, it's hilarious.
It's like,
I love
bro,
it.
you got a name now.
Yeah, and it's Henry with an I, which I like. It's pretty
I do
fun.
too.
Talking about how this movie came to be made, we know that we're in New York this time around. I mean, I feel like that's kind of one of the biggest differences.
Yeah.
Whereas previously the setting was a lot more intimate. It was like this small town living. It's a huge departure.
It was still New York, but not New York City.
Yeah. It was completely different. I want to go ahead and ask John what made him think to do another movie in such a different place.
I actually had the idea for day one when I was writing Quiet Place Part 2, because when I wrote the opening for the Abbott family going through the circumstances of the first alien invasion, I thought that would be an amazing story point to drop into the real world in New York City and see how the whole rest of the world was dealing with it, and certainly under probably more extreme circumstances. The idea of New York was always really, really enticing, not only how loud it is. I think it's arguably one of the loudest cities in the world, or at least as a New Yorker, we think we're the loudest city in the world. But also the bond that New Yorkers have, that there is a group mentality to being in New York. And would people assist and help each other, or would they completely leave each other in the dust and run for survival of their own under extraordinary circumstances so tragic and so horrific that you couldn't even process them? And I think that visceral response is very human, that you don't have a time to make a decision. It's fight or flight. And I think that processing moment is gone. And so you just become your most primal self. And what is that most primal self? Do you help the person next to you, or do you abandon the person next to you?
Thank you, John, for that explanation. I gotta say, this movie had a lot to live up to. I mean, John saying in that clip that he got the idea while doing the day one of the Abbott's family, the small town, and the first scene of A Quiet Place Part 2. And it's one of the most gripping parts of the movie. And I think it's great. So I feel like this movie had a lot to live up to kind of represent what happened on that first day.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that sentiment. I like the idea that New York City is like one of the loudest places, that there is a kind of like sense of community, even how big it is. You know, you get like a sense of community, especially in small towns, of course. Like, I mean, I'm from small towns, and I feel like the community in the sense of the word is so strong that like even if you are outcast as a member, like the whole community's in on it, kind of thing. Almost kind of like the witch trials, for example. You know, when they cast somebody out, that shit, you are like, okay, you play along with it back like in the small town aspect. In the big city, like you just don't think that, you know, it's every man for themselves. But I like that we get to see this different side of it, because in my brain, that's what I would think. Like, you're on your own. New York City's so busy. No, you don't see the same places twice. Like, you don't see the same person twice. It's how rare is that? But that's not the case.
What do you think about that question of morality? Like, when shit hits the fan, what do you do? Are you going to help your neighbor, or are you just like, you're the priority yourself or no one else?
So it depends on the point in my life. I think it depends on where I'm at mentally. It depends on how, I guess in the sense of in the sense of myself, my humanity, my mortality, questioning that, you know, a lot of these, you know, horrific natural disasters, you know, they make you question your mortality, especially if it hits close to home. When we had some horrible events happen, like you're like, oh, it gives you like a kind of a shock. I wanted to help as much as I could, but there are also limited resources and stuff like that too. In the sense of community, sometimes I just don't trust people. I think there are people who can take advantage. So I'm very apprehensive to help people, kind of like Emmett in A Quiet Place too, because I don't know these people. I don't know their motives. I don't know, like, will they one-up me? Will they turn on me if they're given the opportunity to survive instead? Because that is what survival is sometimes. It is making those hard decisions that you don't want to make. That is my biggest question. And I'm like, I don't know what I'd do. I can't even begin to fathom the situation. I would like to think that in that moment I would be like, here's a helping hand. But I can't speak on that right now.
Yeah, you know, I want to say that to a fault, I'd be helpful or whatever. But at the same time, you're right. We don't know.
We don't know.
You know, I could be the biggest coward when the shit actually goes down.
I mean, Like he mentioned, he said fight or flight, and I know I looked over at you, and I was like,
Yeah, he said it. He said it.
But like those trauma responses are a very real thing. You either try to, go forward, you try to run away, or you fucking freeze.
The director of A Quiet Place Day One is Michael Sarnowski, not the usual name we see during the credits of these movies, and I definitely felt that difference in filmmaking between the two different directors.
I did too.
Yeah. It turns out while John did help write this movie, it was important for him to give this new director the opportunity and leeway to follow his own vision.
Love that. That's king behavior.
Sarnowski references other disaster movies set in New York, because we all know there's a bunch of like disaster movies that go down in New York.
Oh yeah.
And how usually they center around like the military, or they're like it's about a family trying to escape. But his idea was to make a movie about a different perspective, someone who doesn't have an interest in escaping. And in doing so brings on themes about like rediscovering yourself, your environment, your emotions, finding closure, and accepting your mortality.
God, he did a fantastic job. I can't praise Michael Sarnowski enough. He really, really, really hit the ball. Like,
yeah,
hit the ball. What's the saying? Hit the ball in the park. In the park.
Hit the nail in the head.
No, she's talking about the home run or thing. Hit the ball out of the park.
Yeah, that one. I don't know. Words.
Yeah, you're right. It's only his second film.
Yeah, his second film.
Yeah, it's only his second film.
Okay.
He previously directed the drama film Pig, starring Nicolas Cage as a truffle hunter who lives alone in the Oregon wilderness and must return to his past in Portland in search of his beloved foraging pig after she is kidnapped.
Imagine your first movie that you ever direct has Nicolas Cage in it.
That's already a win.
Yeah, that's already a W. And he's trying to rescue his kidnapped pig in that movie. I get the sense it's a really weird movie.
I've
actually heard good things about it. It's on my watch list. I just have not yet watched it because I'm the worst. I do this thing where I hoard my movies.
Same. I think we all
where I'm
do
like,
that.
I'm gonna run out of movies, but it's like, no, I'm not. Just
even
watch
close.
it. So maybe we'll do like a little sneak review of that somewhere.
Well, John saw the movie, and that's why he wanted him to direct this one.
Love it.
Yeah, it's super great. Lupita Nyong'o's had a hard time deciding if she was going to sign on to the film since she hates cats.
Can't imagine it.
And as we know, her character in the film has a cat named Frodo. Her character's name is Sam, so they're Sam and Frodo.
Oh, that's perfect.
The actress had asked Sarnowski if they could change the animal due to her fear of cats, but he wouldn't budge. So she started going to therapy to help overcome her feelings towards felines and was able to be on a set with a cat afterwards. Here's what Lupita had to say about her experience.
Okay.
If anyone knows me, they know I do not like cats. I'm afraid of them. I think cats are actually just small lions. That's how I feel about cats. Well, that's how I felt about cats before this movie. This is Frodo. Hi, Frodo. I met Nico and Schnitzel, the two cats that played Frodo in the film.
You can't have a cat in here.
Now, somehow, I love them.
Yeah, so she didn't like cats, and she actually asked the director, can we switch it to a different animal?
That's crazy.
And she had to go to therapy to like be able to handle
these
it.
sweet little babies. Imagine thinking they're big lions.
I mean, they can be.
They can be.
Yeah, she must have changed because I've seen her in like, now that the movie is released, they're doing like press tours and stuff like that. And she's like holding the cat, like during the press tours and stuff like that.
She actually, after the movie, she went out and got a cat for herself.
Good for her.
She did.
So she's been converted.
Yes, she has been, and I would be the same way. Now, the thing that is something that is so like extreme in some aspect, where it's like, oh, you have like this like deathly like this fear that you're like, I don't know that I can overcome this fear.
Yeah.
But then they're like, no, in order for you to do this, we're not changing. Like, you either have to go to therapy or like, imagine having that decision to make. That's a heavy decision. I feel like that's not one you should make lightly, but obviously it worked out for the better. For other people, I know that it might be something, I mean, if somebody told me, Geraldine, you can't do this thing, like, we're not changing this thing about animatronics or big things until you go to therapy to overcome it. I would simply just die. I'd be like, nope, not doing it. Sorry.
Yeah, what if you got like a movie gig and they were like, Geraldine, we want you to star in our horror movie, but it's about the thalassophobia. But you would get paid like a lot of money. Would you get over it?
She'd be
Would
great
you
in
go
it.
to
Genuine reactions.
Yeah. Would
I
you
would
go
have
to
to
therapy
be.
for it?
I'd have to be doped up or something.
Sedated.
Sedate me.
Somebody sedate me.
Paramount executives initially wanted Frodo to be computer generated, but Sarnowski's had made an just plea to have it be real cats, and they ended up budging on it, and we got these two incredible cats.
God.
I'm not gonna lie, and I'm not the only one, by the way. Their performance was amazing.
Oh my! They stole the show.
Yeah, they were amazing.
I came for Lupita and Joseph Quinn.
I wasn't expecting a cat.
I knew that I had seen a cat in the pictures, trailers, whatever. I don't even think I saw trailers. It was mostly just pictures or something, and I was like, okay, this is exciting. We'll see what happens. But I was like, I have been posting in places. I was like, if this cat dies in this movie, I'm going to fucking cry, throw up, shit, and piss everywhere in that theater if it happens.
Didn't you already do all those things and it didn't die?
I just cried a lot.
I told Frank as we were leaving the movie theater, I told him, I was like, if that cat died during that movie, which spoiler alert, it does not, but if that cat died during that movie, I would find John Krasinski's house and I would beat him up personally. I would throw hands.
That's the thing is kill all the kids, kill all the humans and people you want. I don't care.
Don't you dare touch the cat or the dog,
touch
or I
the
will
animals.
turn into John Wick.
Yes.
I'll do it.
Do not touch the animals. I don't care. They didn't do anything wrong.
That was one of my biggest criticisms about the movie in general. It's just often I was distracted by the well-being of the cat.
Well, yes, me too. And I think it gave me a sense of heightened anxiety in a good way, though, because I was like, oh God, where's Frodo?
Yeah, I was wondering that scene to scene. If I didn't see the cat, I'm like, where's the cat? Is the cat okay?
Yes. I cared more about his well-being than any of the characters. However, I did care about them too because they do a really well job of making you care.
You're right. And with that, let's dive into the plot. Samira, a terminally ill cancer patient, lives at a hospice outside New York City with her cat, Frodo. One day, Ruben, a care worker, convinces a reluctant Sam to join a group outing to a marionette show in Manhattan. During the trip, the group notice meteor-like objects crashing into the city. Shortly afterwards, hostile extraterrestrial creatures begin to attack people. In the ensuing chaos, Sam is knocked unconscious. We get this fairly long introduction before we even see the aliens come about, and I think it's so, the whole sell of the movie is that it's in New York, and I do think it's cool. We see way more comets in the sky than we have ever seen in the previous iterations, and I thought it was super neat to see all the military vehicles move across the street or whatever, and things are starting to happen. One of the things that I was looking forward to about this movie was a little bit more of just an explanation of what's going on or how governments are reacting to it. And I will say we didn't really get into any of that.
Yeah, we didn't.
And it's a double-edged sword because like I said earlier about Michael Sarnowski's approach to this movie, he really still wanted to honor how the previous films were intimate and about characters and about people. So he wanted to continue that. The setting's just different. But there's a part of me, and maybe this is maybe the movie would be worse this way, but I still would have been interested in the typical, what is the military doing during this disaster? You know what I mean? I just want to know. I'm so curious about, don't get me wrong, I love the character stories, but I do kind of want to know what's going on,
So I'm gonna what's the word, rebut that in a way. So I don't want to know exactly what they're doing, but I want to know what's going on, if that makes sense. I don't really give a shit about what the military or the government are doing. I want to know specifically, the only thing really is, how did they find out this was coming? How did they know it was happening? And I guess just maybe some kind of Resident Evil. The Resident Evil film with Mila Jovovich, the first one that came out. Fantastic film, by the way. Love that movie. It has a vibe that is chef's kiss. when they go into the Umbrella Corporation, there are papers everywhere, bodies laying there from all the people who were scurrying and couldn't escape. But that's also a different plot line anyway, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so basically, I want to see something like that where the government just went to fucking shit. I want to see that.
Yeah, I just want to find out what that perspective is. Like, what is the military and government doing right now?
I feel like that could be a movie on its
Like,
own,
because
though,
I kind of thought we were going to get that a little bit from A Quiet Place Part 2.
Mm-hmm.
We saw that one scene of, like, Lee talking to Emmett and being like, he was like, I'll call my brother. And so in this movie, all I wanted was one scene in an office somewhere with a bunch of politicians and them going like, we've been attacked by aliens. And then like them figuring out like, bomb New York. And we got a little bit of that where like we saw them take out bridges in New York to kind of contain it or whatever. You know, we obviously know that didn't work. But still, I just wanted a little more like a little broader scope. I know we're trying to keep it intimate, and I think that's what makes these great movies, and I think that's what separates them from other movies. But I'm curious.
Yeah, all I was going to say is that we did kind of get a little bit of that, but you already covered it. But I did like getting to see what the government was doing. It seemed like they kind of came up with a plan really quickly of bombing the bridges to contain what they could on the island. So they did
warn everybody. They were like, don't get on the bridges. And in general, seeing the helicopters go back and forth and like with speakers.
Yeah, they were leading them away. So
that
people
was
could
neat.
go. Yeah, I thought that was pretty neat.
Also, I would love to go to a marionette show. They did look creepy as heck,
I loved it.
but I'd still go.
Very Uncanny Valley. Even that, I guess we could talk about, I don't know if you want to talk about that now or if you'd rather come back to it later, because I know we have more plot to delve into, but I just kind of want to know what the symbolism is there. There's got to be, people are very particular, and a lot of choices being made in filmmaking, a lot of the time, have a distinct decision being made behind it as to the why. And I'm kind of curious as to why a marionette.
This is kind of one of my things I was saying earlier about like sensing the difference between this movie's directors, because I do agree with that as far as like John Krasinski is concerned.
Okay.
I don't think Michael Cernowski is as detail oriented, if I'm being honest, as I think John Krasinski is. And I'm not saying that as like a diss on him or anything. I just definitely think there's a difference.
You're trying to fight? No, I'm just kidding. Because the way that I interpreted it, because it was kind of an emotional, silent performance already. It was a silent performance of like this little boy and he's blowing up a balloon, which was very cool, by the way. The mechanics of that were awesome. I was like, I would have been wowed like the little kids. I would have been like, what? How does he do that? But I'm also wowed with like magic. I don't know. Anyway, so like he's like holding it up with a little balloon and then pop. And then this brings like tears to, Sam, her character. It brings tears to her eyes because I think potentially maybe it reminds her of something later that we talk about in the film, or it either is like making her think about, I don't know, maybe the symbolism with the puppetry in general, like you don't have control of things and puppet you control. I don't know. Maybe I'm reaching. Maybe I'm reaching.
Sam is terminally ill, so she doesn't have a control of like where her life is heading. It's heading in a very specific direction.
Yeah.
And a lot of this movie is about that. Sam later wakes up inside the puppet theater with Frodo and other survivors. Everyone is quiet, and she is signaled by a fellow survivor, Henry, to avoid making any noise. Announcements from overhead military helicopters warn civilians to stay silent and hidden until rescues can be made. Sam witnesses the bridges leading out of Manhattan being bombed to prevent the creatures from leaving the island. One of the survivors begins to panic, which causes Henry to accidentally kill him in the process of keeping him silent. Why are you laughing?
Sorry,
you thought this was funny?
Sorry, no, it's not. It's just I remember the scene and he was like trying so hard to be like, bro, you gotta shut up. And then he's like, and I'm like, oh no, Henry. But sometimes you just.
You're a serial killer.
No, I'm not. It's just, I don't know why. It makes me uncomfortable, like thinking about that situation. If I were in it,
You just be laughing your head off trying to keep him quiet?
I laugh at uncomfortability, dude. I don't know what to tell you.
So do we really think that him just knocking that guy's head on the brick would kill him?
I think
it's just he didn't do it that hard. I'm like, the guy would be knocked out, maybe.
I don't know, man. I mean, yeah, that'll kill you for sure.
Depending on where you hit and stuff.
I just don't feel like he hit him very hard. I feel like it was like a light knock.
Fair enough. I just know that can't happen, unfortunately. Anyway. Later that night, the national power grid cuts off, causing the building's backup generator to noisily activate. Reuben
Yikes.
turns it off, but the noise attracts a creature and kills him. Poor
R.I.P.
Reuben.
Reuben.
I do like though that it's the whole. He was like quick. He was like, "Oh, there's a loud noise. I got to stop it before like a creature gets inside of the studio, of the theater." And it goes to show the whole community aspect and humanity and trying to help others or whatever. And he dies that way, kind of like a selfless hero. Sad to see him go. This is a part of the podcast where I say that I know that Joseph Quinn was going to be in this movie. I've never seen that season of Stranger Things. So this whole time I thought Reuben was Joseph Quinn. And I thought, wow, they killed him off early. I thought he was like one of the main guys.
You didn't recognize him as the one of the Wolf brothers either?
No. Well, I mean, he had like a full beard and a bunch of hair.
Yeah, but I mean, beards are not like a mask. I don't know.
To me, they are. I mean,
they're like a
look
push-up bra for men.
They look completely different. People do with or without a beard.
Well, yes, they're like push-up bras for men, but I digress. I think he still looked recognizable. Actually, I thought he was the other brother. I
So
thought he was not Wolf.
So neither of us knew who he was. That's great to know. But he dies.
He does.
And a distraught Sam takes Frodo and leaves for Harlem. The military announces they are preparing to evacuate civilians by boat from South Street Seaport because the creatures are unable to swim. Remember that from the previous movies.
Yes.
Groups of people start leaving buildings towards the evacuation point, but the sheer volume of their movement together in crowds creates noise that alerts the creatures who attack them and cause a stampede. Sam flees in the opposite direction and is separated from Frodo. This whole scene when they're like all these people in the crowd, I'm thinking one of two things. I'm thinking like, this is so dumb, like of these people to do this. Cause I'm like, you're all together. They make noise. You guys are making a bunch of noise.
People were bringing suitcases that were rolly suitcases. And I'm like, oh my God. I'd be like, shove him out of the way.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't do that.
On second hand, I thought maybe it'll be like one of those things like the waterfall in the first movie where it's like, it's a bunch of like, noise that kind of drones. So maybe but no, the creatures came out,
sure didn't.
Started attacking. As soon as danger was afoot, that cat scurried away.
And he's like, running. Fuck it, I'm out.
Yeah.
Which, don't blame him.
No, not at all. Lupita's character, Sam, is out looking for some pizza from the beginning of the movie. The whole reason she came to the theater to catch a marionette show is because she wanted a slice of pizza.
Yep, it's because Reuben was like, yeah, we can get pizza this time. But then when the danger was afoot, he's like, no, we don't have time to go get pizza. I was just called and they said we need to head back. They didn't get to do that.
No, but she's determined to get that pizza.
And I of course, when you watch it, it's because she has the sense that she will be dying soon because she's terminally ill. And with hospice care, typically that is like the beginning of the end, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. And all she wants is a slice of pizza.
And I get it. Sometimes when you want what you want, like sometimes whenever there are, I know this is not comparable at all.
Okay.
But like when there are snowstorms, that's when I want my takeout. And then I'm like, damn.
Are you ever in that situation where you're like thinking in your head like, man, I can order something in this storm and they will deliver it to me, but am I a bad person?
Yeah, but because I don't do it. I usually just like will make something at home.
Yeah.
Or if I am that dire in need of the situation, I will go out and get it because I can drive in the snow. So.
You can? You're good at it? Okay.
Ice, not so much, but snow is fine. If I go really slow, that's the thing is that if you don't panic, then you're fine.
And you're not known to panic or anything.
Not at all. Actually, I'm actually pretty chill in like inclement weather. It's especially just like snow or heavy rain or anything like that. I don't really panic much, but I don't know. It's weird.
Well, what's your version of the pizza? Like in your personal life, they like something that like means a lot to you that you're willing.
Mexican food.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Some hot queso dip, the chips, the salsa,
man,
enchiladas, rice and beans.
At least for Sam, a bite of a pizza is pretty, soundless. But you're eating the tortilla chips.
Oh yeah, that's true. The crunch. I'd be dead.
Yeah, I'd
be dead.
Bailey, what about you? What's your version of the pizza?
Does it have to be food?
No, it can be anything. Something that like you'd put yourself in danger to obtain because you like it so much.
In an apocalyptic situation, I will always choose survival.
Yeah.
So, I don't think there's anything. I mean, if there's a cat in the middle of the road, maybe I'd save it.
Okay, the cat. Okay.
But otherwise, Bailey said she's not like other girls. Yeah. I'm just kidding. But no, I get it. Yeah. I'm an idiot though, so.
I don't know what my version of this would be. Like, it'd probably be like same kind of as Bailey, except for people. I'd probably like go out of my way to help somebody.
Okay.
You see a GameCube in the middle of the road.
Oh, God.
Pristine condition.
Or like a 2006 Sony CRT.
Yeah.
We can go grab
No,
that.
it's hooked up to a CRT. It's got 2 controllers, and it has Smash Melee on the inside of it.
Well, I gotta save it.
Yeah, exactly.
From the aliens.
Yeah.
So Eric, an English law student, escapes a flooded subway station and encounters Frodo, following him back to Sam. She attempts to convince Eric to go to the evacuation point, but Eric is shell-shocked and follows Sam back to her apartment instead, where she hopes to find pain medication. I actually, when he showed up, I was like, oh my gosh, he's not dead. He's just now showing up. Because I thought he died when Ruben died. And I was like, he's coming in so late into the movie.
Yeah.
I feel like he came in like, I don't know, maybe over half an hour into the movie.
Yeah, I would say that's probably about accurate. But I mean, from there, like he really did such a good job. Like he just seemed like he needed a big hug.
Yeah.
I was like, Joseph Quinn, do you need a hug?
Yeah, I would agree. While there, Eric learns Sam is an acclaimed and published poet. Sam and Eric later agree to travel together and narrowly avoid the creatures as they make their way to Harlem. Along the way, Eric gets Sam's medication for her from a nearby pharmacy. Sam tells him that, as a child, she used to watch her late father play jazz at a club and would get pizza with him at Patsy's. Afterward, something Sam always wanted to do before she died. Eric fulfills Sam's wish by taking her to the club, collecting pizza from another store, and performing a magic card trick to cheer her up. One of my favorite scenes of the movie.
Precious.
Seeing him do the magic card trick.
It was adorable. I mean, just like the amount of acting that you can do with no words is just so. That's telling of a performance.
Oh, yeah.
Ladies, if your man wouldn't do that for you, he ain't worth it, and you need to dump him.
And because he couldn't get her Patsy's, he wrote Patsy's on the box.
Aw, so sweet. Right?
What a simp. Just kidding, I'm kidding.
They weren't even romantically
They weren't.
interested in each
No.
other, okay?
But still, even though, like, that is love. Even if it's not, like, platonic, romantic, that is just love, borderline. Like,
Yeah.
just, and that, if people don't do that for you, kick them out of your life.
I do think there is a sense of found family in this film, and I don't know. Maybe sometimes I think I'm naive for thinking that people are naturally good and they have like love in their hearts. And I just see these two people who are complete strangers to one another. They find a connection in like these trying times. You know?
There's also a huge arc for Sam that we really don't get to talk about a lot. But we start the movie off in the hospice center, and they're in like a round, like counseling session. Like Ruben is like, hey, do you want to read your poem? And then she's like, everything fucking sucks, basically. Everything stinks. He stinks. She stinks. All of the things. Like she was just like listing off things that suck. And that was like shit. And it was really funny, really endearing. She has like, a sarcastic sense of humor, but also like, I get it. I mean, she's dying. I mean, like, what? Yeah. I mean, that sucks.
She's not happy.
Yeah.
And she's I get the sense that she hasn't been to the city in a long time. And she's been stuck at the hospice. And I feel she's kind of lost herself.
Yeah.
And the whole reason she wants the pizza, it's like the last shred of happiness that she could obtain. And in her head, it is happiness, and maybe it is, but throughout her time with Eric, I feel like she kind of does find herself again and finds her love for her environment. And
she like kind of was like, go get to safety. You don't want to be with me. But I don't know that she had the heart to be like, I'm dying. Go. Like, you don't have to worry about me. But she does eventually tell him, and he does eventually find out. And he is just so kind and gentle with her during this process, even in the trying situations, the stressful times with like them being in the subway. Oh my God. Like just so many different moments where he could have just up and left, and he just kept coming back and was like, I'm here to help.
Yeah.
Ah, beautiful.
It is beautiful because at the end of the day, that's all we got is each other, Later, Eric and Sam see boats in the river filled with survivors escaping Manhattan. As the two leave together, creatures start to congregate along the shore. Sam gives Frodo to Eric and runs off to distract the creatures by smashing car windows, while Eric jumps into the water and is pulled up into a boat by Henry. Eric then finds a note in his jacket from Sam, telling him to take care of Frodo and thanking him for reminding her to live. Oh my gosh. Like, some people have criticized this film for being too sympathetic at the end.
Why?
I don't know, but it totally worked for me. Like,
my God.
there's another point of the movie where I cried. It's just him reading that letter.
You cried?
Oh, I cried several times. Who didn't cry during this movie?
You were just making fun of me for crying. It felt like.
No, more for like the shitting, farting, pissing, all that
Oh,
stuff.
yeah. Well, no, I didn't do all that. I just only cried.
Yeah, fair
But
enough.
I did cry a lot. Like,
Yeah, I mean, it's a tearjerker.
it really is. It really brings out the humanity. And if
Yeah,
you,
exactly, yeah.
If you don't, like, I don't know, if you don't show a shred of emotion, even for the cat, like, then what are, like, you need to reevaluate yourself. I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean that if you don't cry, you're not human, no, but if you don't feel, if this movie does not hit you, you know?
Yeah. I think some movies are different for others. So I'm sure you've seen a movie that people are like, oh my gosh, that hit me so hard. And you're like, yeah.
Yeah, I can honestly say this is a hot take, and I'm going to piss off some more people. Here we go. You ready?
Hit me.
The Notebook.
Didn't work for you.
I didn't cry.
I'm going to be controversial. A movie that did not speak to me, resonate with me that much, etc., was Inside Out. The first one. Yeah, I'm just not a huge fan of it. I think it's a perfectly good movie. I just was like,
I get it.
whatever about it.
I cried. I haven't watched the second one yet.
Yeah.
Also for fear of going in there and crying again.
But in this movie, like it was really impactful to
Yeah.
see, like, you know, just that letter and just her thanking him to remind her what it was like to live.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Painful, but like so sweet.
Yeah. I feel like the first two movies in A Quiet Place were about family.
Yeah.
This one is more so humanity.
Yeah.
It's more so mortality, I feel like. Sometime later, Sam walks into an empty street as she listens to Nina Simone's recording of Feeling Good on her iPod. Accepting her imminent fate, Sam smiles as she unplugs the earphones and lets the music blare. A creature appears behind her as the screen cuts to black.
Impactful.
And like you said at the beginning of the movie, talking about the marionettes and being in control or not, now she is in control.
Yeah.
And she does get to decide her own fate.
And even though it's not the fate that anyone probably would have selected for her, she chose that ultimately. And I
Yeah.
think that's important.
I mean, in other countries, there is like assisted suicide. And you can, if you make that decision for yourself, you can go do that.
I think that's absolutely fine, especially if, you know, like you're fully aware of what you're doing and you're like, hey, this is what I've decided.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I mean, people choose some people don't choose to elect hospice care, but some people do. And while some of it may be slow for others, some of it is really quick. And they're like, yeah, I know that it's my time, and I need, you know, and we've had some family members go through hospice care, and it's not an easy feat at all to witness, but it does allow them to be comfortable and go at their own pace. So
Yeah. And I appreciate Michael Cernovsky deciding to have that perspective. I don't think it's one we get to see super often.
no.
So especially in a movie like this. So I do really appreciate it. Now, going on to the reception that this movie has received, critics generally found the film tense, though less terrifying than its predecessors, and praised the performances, including the cat Frodo, of which I agree, very well-trained cats. And yes, they were trained cats. That is a thing. You can train your cat, apparently. Evidently, they only had to use a laser pointer a couple of times. And otherwise, they were just set. They just wanted them to look like a certain direction.
I will say at one point in the movie, Lupita is, you know, trudging along one of the cats, and she has like the little harness. Now, my cats do not like harnesses. They don't take well to them. Some cats do. Some cats don't. It just depends on the animal. This cat did not seem interested at all in going in the direction that she was directing it to. He was like,
I noticed that too.
I noticed it too.
It made me laugh a little bit because I was like, oh, cats.
It's realistic. It's realistic.
It is.
I love those videos of like you put a harness on a cat and it just flops on the ground.
That's what my cats do.
Oh, really?
They do not like it. Now, when we had like tornado situations, I still keep my harnesses just in case so that I can put the harness on them and I have the leash. And then if anything happens, I can hold on to them and make sure they're safe.
Now, you messaged me right after you got home saying
Yeah.
that you immediately went to
did.
your cat.
I did. I immediately went to the cats. We gave them so much love because it just, being a cat lover, being an animal lover, really, it just really stressed me out. And I was like, man, first of all, if I ever going through this situation, I'd be dead in a heartbeat because my cats, they talk a lot. They're very vocal.
So you don't think Jackie would survive this?
I don't think we'd survive it because of Jackie. And she'd probably go too because she'd be like, meow, meow. and then she would also go.
I feel like Frodo had a handle on things. I think Frodo would have been fine.
The most silent cat.
He would just pitter patter around, you know.
Now, that's the thing. That's realistic to me in the aspect of cats are very, for the most part, pretty quiet and quick on their feet.
Yeah.
They usually have pretty good reflexes and stuff. Sometimes it depends on the cat and what it's doing, but unless it has the zoomies, I'm surprised they didn't show the cat with the zoomies because that is also a realistic aspect of being a cat owner. But I really Frodo stole the freaking show. I was really stressed for his
I'm so
well-being.
happy it's not a CGI cat. Like,
that makes it so much more special.
these cats are so good, and I was thinking about that throughout the movie. I was like, how did they get the cat to do any of this?
Yeah, that's
There's
insane.
scenes where it follows just a freaking cat, and it's doing the dang thing, and I'm like, wow, okay. Really cute cat too.
Amazing, yeah.
You said your cat looks kind of similar, yeah?
Yeah, she's black and white, but she doesn't look exactly like those babies. She's a calico. Well, she's not just black and white. She's a calico cat, but she has black and white spots similar to some of those spots, but mostly she doesn't look exactly.
We'll
like
post
that.
a picture on Instagram.
Yeah, we will because she's my baby.
So Entertainment Weekly gave the film a B+ and stated, anyone who has seen the previous A Quiet Place films knows that an exuberant happy ending is not awaiting Sam and Eric. But in the time they have together, perhaps they can find things that will make life a little better. You can see the same sensitivity with performers in A Quiet Place Day 1. Nyong'o walks from Chinatown to Harlem for a slice of pizza, even though aliens are killing everyone in the city. On paper, that's idiotic. But somehow, this movie ends up being quite touching in between the scenes when it's making you jump.
A B+. That's kind of bitchy of them.
Well, my rating is very similar. A 2.5-star review at RogerEbert.com stated, there are enough interesting ideas and at least 2 confident performances holding A Quiet Place Day 1 together. Even if it sometimes feels like a first draft of a richer, more complex final film, rating it 3 out of 5 stars. Peter Bradshaw's review for The Guardian read, it's an efficient, if similar, spectacle of suspense. I don't think B+, B+ is it's a super high grade. It's all.
Yeah, but you're also entering I don't know. I think it deserved way better. It was very good.
There's not much better though. It's just an A.
Do you have B+, A-, A+? What do you mean? They're different
top
scales.
4. I feel like it's pretty close to the top. As far as the future of the film franchise, A Quiet Place Part 3 is rumored to be in the works, following the next step for the Abbott family, as well as a new video game called A Quiet Place Road Ahead, coming out later this year in 2024, where you play as an asthmatic.
That sounds terrifying.
Yeah, so you have loud breaths.
Are you playing as Marcus? Because Marcus is asthmatic. He was in the first movie.
No, I think there's a different story.
Okay.
And I think you play as a girl, and I think you also get pregnant.
Oh.
Oh, so we're just covering.
Is there an
everything from the
option
first
for-
one.
It's like
One
everybody
person.
from the first movie, you're just one person now. Is there an option for not getting pregnant?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or
Maybe.
or opting to.
Well, I'm sure that's just going to happen through several playthroughs.
Let's be honest. I'm a very I love video games so much, and I love them. They're great. I've played them my whole life growing up. I'm bad at them though, so let's be honest. If I'm playing it, we might die a lot,
Yeah.
so that's fine.
Well, maybe there's an easy mode,
Shut up.
All right, Sharon, let's go ahead and get to our ratings of the movie. I'll go first. I'll be up front. I give the movie an 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a well-crafted movie. I simply prefer John Krasinski's methodology when it comes to filmmaking. I enjoy how intimate the first 2 films are, and I connected with those characters a lot more than I connected with the characters in Day 1. I felt like Day 1 had a lot of bigger, heady themes that I really enjoyed, like everything we talked about, humanity and mortality. I feel like really impacted me, but it was more psychological than it was emotional, and I'm more of an emotional person, and the first 2 movies resonated with me a lot more emotionally than this one did. That being said, I love the story. I think it's a great addition to the franchise. I would like to see more. Obviously, we know that Eric survived because we know that Henry survived after this, and Henry made his way onto that island.
Yeah.
So presumably, who else is at that island? Eric. So
Exactly.
he might meet the Abbott family in part 3 potentially.
That's my theory. That's what I was gonna kind of bring up, is that I think it would be very interesting, and it would be a dumb decision for them to not cash in on this opportunity for them to bring Eric along for A Quiet Place Part 3. Like maybe he did not, like maybe not all of the people on the island died, you know, and maybe we still have Frodo because I want Frodo.
Oh wait, so you want to keep seeing the
Yes,
cat?
I want to keep. First of all, it heightens my experience in a way that is like, I can't bring words to it. But don't fucking kill the cat. If you kill the cat, I'm gonna come after you. But you know what I mean? Like, it makes it even more intense for me because I'm like, please, somebody get that cat.
Bailey, do you want to see Frodo come back in another Quiet Place movie?
I mean, like, yeah, I'd like to see him. I don't want to see him as a plot device again, because that's all that he was in this movie, in my opinion.
I loved him in the movie. I don't want to see him again. I want, like, show him up in a scene and be like, yeah, and Frodo will stay back here where it's safe, and
That's
then
what
we'll
I mean.
go.
That's what I mean. I want to
Yeah.
see him being happy and free
Thriving.
and safe. Yes, and nothing else. That's all that I want for Frodo.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, so that's where I land on it. I give it an 8 out of 10. I loved it. Great movie. I hope to see more. I mean, I wonder if A Quiet Place is going to go in the same tradition as other horror franchises where they have just like 10 freaking movies and it's just like different people across the world.
You know what? I'm not gonna complain if they do that.
Yeah. So where do you land on this?
Okay, so now we're opposite because I would rate it a 10. I thought it was perfect in every way, shape, or form. There was not a thing that I would change about it. It had so much heart. It had so much like love. I thought because it was a more intimate experience and you also brought the cat into the picture, it made it more terrifying in the aspect of like, you know, we get this crazy scene where Eric is trying to grab the cat, and then because he makes one sound, we get a close-up of the Death Angels, and I was like, like, it kicked the breath out of me because I was like, please. Like, I was like, along the ride with them, I felt more connected to these characters than I did the previous characters. While I do root for their happiness and, you know, their success and survival, but I felt because it was so intimate in this film, I connected more because, you know, you get to know that Eric, you know, is on his own and he's here for law school and his family's back in England and he's not there with them and he's really sad about it. He doesn't have anybody here, so he's alone. And then he, you know, kind of clings to the first person that he meets through the cat because the cat's so smart. And he's like, my mom's here. And then Lupita's character, Sam, was just the arc from, you know, I am angry. I don't want anything to do with the world. I don't, you know, like very shut off and very disconnected. The arc from being disconnected to connected was just so beautifully done because not only does she, you know, trust this person, the stranger that she's never met before, she also like has him take care of her cat and she gives him a family heirloom that was special to her, and he also goes along the ride, and it's a really like just a beautiful story about her getting what her final wishes before she passes in this dark, dangerous world. So I think it's just very intense and perfect. So I don't know.
All right. So with that ties it up with A Quiet Place Part 2. So we got number 1,
So
A Quiet
Bailey
Place.
has to be our tiebreaker then.
Okay. Bailey, what do you think about the movie?
Don't hate me. I also give it an 8. I just like the other two.
Can't promise anything.
I just like the other two more, and while I love the cat, I also hate having the cat be a plot device in the movie. Because to me, personally, that just feels like cheap narratively. And it makes me feel like the tension in the first two movies with the Death Angels is like real tension. Whereas I feel like the tension, a lot of like 50 to 70% in this movie, all the tension is just the cat in this movie, to me personally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do think that's a caveat to say, not to interrupt you, but just that I don't know. I do think some of us are more cat sensitive than others.
Yeah, and
So
I am
other
really
people
cat
are like,
sensitive.
oh, it's an animal, whatever, you know.
Well, I mean, I'm very cat sensitive, and I cried my eyes out. Like,
No,
don't get
yeah.
me wrong. Like,
I'm
I
just
was
saying, there's some people. Bailey's saying that it's like cheap tension.
Even-
I could see there being people who didn't get any tension out of the cat safety.
I mean, I get that too, but like during this, like the scenes where they were underwater and stuff, and they had the cat, and they were trying to like, I was crying my eyes out because I was like, this cat's gonna freaking die, and I'm gonna be upset. And then it ended up working out, and it was fine.
See, I think
Yeah.
all that stuff kind of annoyed Bailey more than anything.
That's what I mean. Like, I feel like it's a cheap narrative
I love
device
it.
because they can just throw a cat into the scene and just be like, oh, this will make people feel things, instead of like actually, like I was saying during the first and second movies, there's like real tension with real complexity there that you're not expecting.
I am really curious to know if that was intentional. If they were thinking, oh yeah, this cat will add, like people will be concerned over this cat.
Yes, that was the whole point of having the cat
I don't
in the
know.
movie.
I'm not sold on that.
Regardless, that's how I felt. That's how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very sensitive to cats in any kind of media. I watched Buzz Lightyear and I cried like 7 times because of the robot cat in that movie. So, like, I don't know. It's just, but that was different in that movie, right? Because he was an actual character, whereas I feel like Frodo isn't a character in this. Like, I mean, I know he's a cat, but he's not like a character in this movie so much as he is just a plot device to force you to feel tension. And it just feels a little cheap to me. Not like I'm judging them for doing it. It's just for me, that's not super effective. It cheapens it as a horror movie to me.
Is that your main complaint?
Yes. That's pretty much my only complaint for the most part. But I did really enjoy the movie. I enjoyed it. I just didn't like it as much as the other two.
Right.
So I'm going to give it an 8. Before you guys wrap up, though, I did want to bring up the last scene that we see Frodo kind of running away and leading, what's his name, Eric, where we get like that really close up look at the Death Angel and like this like industrial area. I feel like we haven't talked about this at all, but we get to see some really interesting interactions between the Death Angels themselves. Like, I thought I had a feeling that Frodo was leading us to like eggs, like the Death Angel eggs, where they're gonna like hatch more Death Angels, but that's not the case. But I thought that that's what they were doing, but instead they had like these weird alien bulbs that they like ate from. So now it's like, do the Death Angels even eat people?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think they're just killing.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was an animal, so that was my interpretation. I thought
it was like a bulb. It was like an alien bulb.
Yeah, I definitely got the sense it wasn't earthly.
Yeah, and one of them found it, and they called the others to it to start eating. That's really weird narratively. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sure that they're going to like
address it.
Yeah, I'm sure that they're going to add more to it, like bit by bit with every movie.
It was very
strange. It didn't go anywhere in this one.
It was out of place. You also saw like a giant creature.
I don't know if it was giant or if that was just the close-up. Yeah, I think that was just a close-up of a Death Angel. We just haven't been that close to one.
with Joseph.
Yeah, I just felt like
that was a close-up.
It just felt like when their head was right next to.
Yeah, that was just a close-up.
I don't know. I got the sense it was big.
Nah,
it might have been bigger than the other ones.
I'm hoping next one we get like a giant one or something.
No, please.
Like
fucking don't.
Yeah, and the egg thing was weird. Also, just the sense of like the intelligence of communication. Like I was talking about it in the last podcast where I was curious to know like not only what is the intent of these creatures, but how far do their brains work? Are they the alien that was sent to Earth? Or are they like an army sent by something else? Like, are these just like dogs of war?
Did they just happen upon us, or is there a reason why they're here?
That's what I wanted more of an explanation about. I was like, oh, well, okay.
See, that's what I mean about the military and the government.
But you know what? I feel like they could address it with like A Quiet Place, Project something. And I feel like that would be like a movie just about the government perspective.
Yeah, I would totally.
Now I will say I would love that.
I would too.
I don't know if the idea of that makes John Krasinski kind of shudder a bit when he was like, I made these movies about family.
It's basically just revamping the Alien movies, right?
Yeah,
in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally would like to see more about like, did they know about this? Kind of like, and in a lot of the movies, they're like, oh, hush, hush, like don't talk about this, project, blah, 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 blah.
I will say it does go to show that like, as much with the whole conversation surrounding like art and how like we are just like the lowest common denominator kind of people and just want to see the same crap flown at us. Like I'm still subjective to that. We're like this like blockbuster idea interests me.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure all it would be is just like it would be like a mashup between the Alien movies and Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Because I mean, Death Angels already look so similar to Demogorgons already.
Yes, they do.
So it's like, but you know what? To be honest, if you mash those together and you add a little bit of like this Chernobyl kind of feeling to it, I think it could really work.
Right.
But also, they're gonna have to explore around the world. I mean, like, let's be honest, this thing is not gonna just impact like
Yeah.
New York.
Yeah, and I mean, this movie's doing really good at the box office, so we'll almost definitely see more.
I think so.
So-
I know so because let's be honest, the fans want more, and
Yeah.
they can't just leave A Quiet Place Part 2 where they left it because I'm gonna be upset.
Yeah, so this is a. I mean, at this point, it's a franchise. Not
It
only
is.
a good one, but one that like is profitable. It's making a bunch of money, and I would love if it goes down that 10 movie path that other horror movies have gone down. I wouldn't be upset. And so far, the batting average is very high.
Very high.
So the quality has turned out, and I'd be happy with it. But well, okay, so that puts us our rankings at number 1, A Quiet Place, number 2, A Quiet Place Part 2, and number 3, A Quiet Place Day 1.
Ironic.
Yeah.
It is ironic.
They're all great films, though.
Whenever we rank these, we're not ever saying any of them are bad, unless we're talking about like Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. In which case, that one was pretty bad.
Okay.
But I don't know.
Yeah, but also I gotta say, like, if you watched the first one and you didn't like it, check out this one. You might like this one.
If you haven't seen any of them and you want to start watching them, you can start with
here.
this one.
Yeah.
It all ties in, which is fantastic and wonderful for continuity purposes because I love it. I could kiss it on the mouth. I love continuity.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the tampons real quick?
Yes. Your periods don't have to suck. Get Vampons for 10% off with our code FrightFlightPod at vampons.com or wherever you get them. They're available in many different places, and they're also HSA, FSA eligible. They are BPA free, cruelty free, and vegan, and also refillable. So they're eco-friendly. So you can have a refillable coffin-shaped box. Normally we have it in our hands. It's fine. I'm sure we could edit it in, but it's a coffin-shaped refillable box. So get it. It's really cool, and they're also spooky. So
Go check it out. Thank you guys for listening. We appreciate it. We start our next Bite Side season right after this one.
Yes.
We're doing Twisters.
Movies, or at least the first movie, traumatized me as a child.
Yeah. Well, we're going to revisit that, and we're going to watch it in 4DX. I'm excited about it.
4DX, and if my head does not spin off my body, I don't want it.
Be careful what you wish for.
Like, if they don't have a tornado in the room with us.
Well, we'll catch you guys next time. We'll see you there.
Also, follow us on all of our socials at Fright Fight Pod.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Fright or Flight, a Live Oaks Village production. This episode was hosted by Geraldine Johnson and Saul Alberto Arizmendi Ochoa. Editing and music composition by Saul Alberto Arizmendi Ochoa.